E rau rangatira mā, nau piki mai, nau kake mai, ki tēnei whakapāotanga. Welcome to Mata, with me, Tuwhenuaroa Natanahira, standing in for Mihingarangi Forbes. This episode is brought to you by Te Māngai, Pāho, and Irirangi Te Motu New Zealand on air. Ko taku manuhiri tuārangi tēnei rā, ko te mema paremata, o te ropu kākāriki, ko Hūhana Lyndon. I te tuahine tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe tutunga ne o tira tēnā koutou katoa.
Hūhana is our first-term Green Party list MP based in Te Tai Tokera, who's been attempting to take on the Public Works Act to protect Māori land ownership. We'll get to that a little bit later. But first I just wanted to ask about the transition going into becoming an MP. So you've been there for over a year now. How are you adjusting, or have you gotten a handle on the tikanga of that house?
Well, I've come from Hapua Niue land, and it's just another step in terms of the intensity and the workload, and I'm really grateful for supportive whānau. And coming home into the kāinga is really important in terms of balancing both the work in the house but also grounding you. So I appreciate the kaupapa that happen in the kāinga and my opportunity to bring that voice and the concerns of home into whare pāremata.
What do you find most challenging?
I think it's definitely the work in the house is challenging, the rules of the house, but also, you know, some of the rigour and the te triti issues. For myself as a mokopuna of te triti o Waitangi and he whakapūtanga, seeing the stripping away of our te triti rights and legislation really hits home. So, you know, it's really getting your best foot forward and working hard for your people, but also to uphold those things that are most important, which is he whakapūtanga me te triti.
I do want to touch on your work with the Public Works Act and, of course, some changes with the Resource Management Act as well. But just before that, as we all know, it's been a difficult couple of weeks now for particularly new Green MPs. Both Tamitha Paul and Benjamin Doyle have been criticised and they've been receiving threats through social media. As a new Green MP yourself, how have you found that transition into being a parliamentary figure and all of the scrutiny that comes with that?
Yeah, I think it's something that we all need to come to grips with as new members of Parliament, but that's no different to representation in iwi or local government. We see it across the board. And with our portfolios, they come with diverse issues and challenges, and it's our job as members of Parliament to bring their voice into whare pāremata. So when Tamitha speaks about those most impacted by police, that's our whānau. They are voiceless often, and when the police's own reports come out and show the bias towards Māori men, towards our whānau iwi kāinga, and we propose solutions that reduce recidivism and also the impact of crime in our communities, but also for our community puta noa i Aotearoa, that's what I'm all about, and I think that that's what Tamitha's been trying to bring through, is the voice of those marginalised.
Have you managed to have any kind of kōrero with Benjamin since the start of this week?
Ko taku tu ngā ne tērā. So I have definitely reached out and offered aroha to his whānau at this time. But I'm mindful too that, you know, our rainbow community needs support and their whānau needs support also. And that's a part of my responsibility as a tuahine and mindful of the whakapapa that binds us. So no matter what happens in the whare pāremata, ahakoa te hea pāti, we're all whānau at the end of the day, and how do we protect that whanaungatanga?
As you know, you've recently attempted to get the government to stop taking whenua Māori, and that was through an amendment bill for the Public Works Act. That was rebuffed. What did that teach you about trying to advance kaupapa Māori through Parliament?
It was hard because they were wrong in the way that they had pitched and they viewed us as Māori and the little bit of whenua that we have left. The protection of whenua Māori is utmost important for us, knowing that we have, 5 to 6% of whenua Māori puta i Aotearoa, and for us in the north it's 1 to 2%. So our ability to say yes or no to public works taking is a part of rangatiratanga and mana motuhake. So why not give us a chance to get through first reading to the select committee to open the door for the voice of our people to come through the whare.
It wasn't just Pāke who disagreed though. There are some Māori MPs in the government who voted to keep that access to Māori land. I'm wondering what the problem around that is from your whakaaro. Does party loyalty overturn or overrule kaupapa Māori, do you think?
That's a good question to ask members of the government. But what we have seen with this government is about fast track, and it's about increasing the pace of development. And so we have seen with the review of the Public Works Act, the way that the government is seeking to take land faster. We have the fast track legislation, and now we have the resource management reform. So it's all geared up to fasten it up. But with that, we have to be really careful, because it can undermine due process, due diligence, and our voice as iwi Māori.
Historically, how much agreement has there been between Māori and the government when taking whenua Māori for public works? I've got a quote here from Shane Jones. He's reported as saying that when a place needs a new road or a new wharf and there's land, and the tribes will usually agree to give it. What do you make of that?
That's the point. It's the ability for us to have informed consent. The Public Works Act does not provide the space for us to have informed consent, because they can compulsorily acquire it, whether we agree or not. And that's my issue, and my members' bill was seeking to address that. Why not allow the Māori to come to the tepu and have a full negotiation on the pros and cons and consider the options, and then agree for yes or no? Was all my bill was seeking to do. It wasn't addressing any of the past harms of the Public Works Act. It was for now and into the future. And that's what's so disappointing, because Māori have been undermined for so long through the generations by the Public Works Act.
Now, I'd like your whakaaro on this, because in the background, happening now is, of course, all of the raru going on back at Te Kāmo around the Pā, which you're very intimately involved with. So under the government's vision for the Public Works Act, the Minister for Land Information would deal with those cases rather than the Environment Court. I imagine you're not a fan of that.
Yeah, so with the current reforms that are being proposed by the Minister, for general title, landowners would not be able to go to the Environment Court anymore. It would go to the deciding minister or the kaunihira. And for whenua Māori, if they were to take or propose to take whenua Māori, you'd be able to go to the Environment Court. It's too expensive for Māori to go to the Environment Court. It costs a lot, and there's huge barriers to us to be able to fight something of this size and scale. And I pay tribute to all of those hapu, whānau, iwi groups who are fighting it out in the Environment Court right now.
I'd like to move on to the Resource Management Act. They're dropping the treaty clauses. That's the push at the moment.
Yeah.
What does that mean for mana whenua, from your whakaaro?
Yeah, really worrying. So I'm not saying that the Resource Management Act as it stands is good for Māori, but we have been used to it. Some 30 odd years that we've been operating in this space. It provides a provision for us to be able to have our voice heard on taonga, on wāhi tapu, wāhi whakahirahira as Māori through Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Those generic clauses open up the pathway for hau kāinga to have their voices heard. Now, the RMA, as it stands, provides space for us to have input into planning and policy, and joint management opportunities, resource consents, and also mana whakahono arohe, even the devolution of powers. Now, it's a suite of opportunity for Māori. And now we have the devil's in the detail. We don't have clarity in terms of what that will look like, apart from, we'll uphold treaty settlements. But it's in the marae and it's in the hapu that most of us do our work in resource management. So where's the protection for our people?
Big dams, major highways, all of these happen because of the Resource Management Act, and the government, in a way, wants to make it easier for those projects to happen. You're based in Te Taitokera, you know how bad the roads are up there. Surely there's a part of the Resource Management Act that you are in favour of?
Not opposed to reforms, not at all. Understand the need for good infrastructure, understand, it takes a while sometimes, but that cannot undermine our obligations to te taia. Ko e hamahama papatuanuku. Me he mea ka hamahama papatuanuku, ka pēhea te ora o te iwi. So we need to look after our taia obligations as well as uphold the important voice of iwi kāinga. And that's still to be determined. I don't know what their proposals are. And that's what I do fear, because we've got fast track coming at us and we have developers that are constantly using the tools of the RMA And if there's not a protection for marae and hapu, then what will that look like? Is it just those that are settled that will have their rights upheld? And what about the rest of us? But te treaty obligations are not set in stone just from a treaty settlement. Te treaty is enduring, so there should be protections above all things for all Māori.
Could you give me some specifics? So, as we mentioned, you're based in Te Tai Tokerau in the north. How would your sort of plans for public works reform, resource management reform, infrastructure reform, how would that affect a place like Te Kao, for instance? Small, far northern town, population no more than a few hundred.
If you think about resource consents in particular, that's where the voice of the haukainga comes through. And so I'm assuming that Pōtahi Marae trustees would have a voice. Also, you might have a Māori committee that might have a voice in that space too. You might also look to put in place some cultural monitoring of whatever the works were. And in rural communities, we'd be all over it. When you're in urban centres, it's even harder because there's more consents coming through the pipeline. And we lack capacity in marae and in hapu to respond, let alone in iwi land. So that's been an ongoing concern and an issue for us in resource management issues. And te taiao is capacity, but also capability. How do we access the technicians that we need? So I keep thinking of papiwai or whangaruru, those kāinga that need access to the relevant technicians to help arahi us through the process.
Why the Greens? Why not Te Pāti Māori?
For me?
Aye.
Oh, well, I'm a diverse perspective. I've got a diverse perspective on the world. I enjoy the company of the ecosystem and the village that I have in the Green Party. I uphold te taiao as a part of my kaupapa. And for me, the basis of te tiriti o Waitangi within the Green Party really appealed to me. And when Marama Davidson made the tono to me, it took a while, had to ask my whānau and kaumātua, and they said, go for it, give it a go. And here I am.
Yeah, and I asked that question because you do refer to your kaumātua and your queer constantly. You see it, the people who go up north, and you're at almost every kaupapa. You're well known in the north, certainly. And
I
so,
try.
Yeah, and so it would be natural to assume that you'd go down that Māori party route. I suppose not.
I haven't had the opportunity, but the door was open to me through the Green Party. And to get the nod from Marama is, an honour for me, knowing she's our most experienced wahine Māori on our side of the whare, and for her to reach out and ask me to consider was something that was not a part of life's journey. I was fine in what I was doing, and I take the responsibility very seriously to bring our haukainga issues into the whare pāremata.
How long have you had political ambitions?
I haven't. I have always been politically minded, and I am not afraid to use my voice and influence across whatever sphere is required, whether it's hauora, whai kāinga and local government. And if I can lift a tea towel on an issue, I will. If I have an opinion on an issue, I am not shy to do the work to support whatever needs to be done.
I'd like to talk about infrastructure now. In the north, we need new houses, better roads, safer drinking water. Lots of things, to put it bluntly. If you don't subscribe to that same extraction model that people like Matua Shane Jones do, how are we paying for these things?
That's a good point. In terms of the extraction model that is being proposed, that relies on a finite resource, and for us in the north, we have to be very careful. We've already experienced, environmental degradation, whether it's for myself in Ngāti Hau and Whakapara, and then in our kāinga where we see the pollution tūtai into the Hokianga Harbour. We have to be very careful about the little resource that we have. But, if we reform our tax system, there will be enough of a dollar to go around, and Tai Tokiro has been starved of investment. And so I do pay tribute to the Provincial Growth Fund and what it did do to provide some level of uplift. We need more of that investment, and that's a part of the public good and the showing of support to Arohe, and that should not be like a carrot and a stick to our people of the north.
Where are the jobs coming from?
The job should be from our people, but that requires us to plan for our future workforce.
So is that tourism?
It could be tourism, it could be new sustainable businesses, it could also be in terms of ecotourism. Different, it doesn't have to be extraction. And let's not think that if we open up mines in Taitokiro that somehow magically there will be jobs available. Not at all. It can take up to 16 years to establish a mining operation. Now, if we think about McCullum Brothers who are coming into Whangarei Harbour, the Bream Bay area for sand extraction, that's a technical expertise that we probably won't have in Taitokiro. And by all reports, those kaimahi will come from Tāmaki. So what is the benefit to the north when you extract our sand from Te Paipai or to Bream Bay? You're taking it to Tāmaki Makaurau and you're importing your kaimahi into Aotearoa.
We were in Auckland filming this episode. One of the big talking points, as it always is public transport. Mm-hmm. Something like public transport wouldn't work in, up north, let's say Ahipara, for instance. What does the north need in terms of, what do they need most right now?
Public transport is actually needed, and that's been an underinvestment again. You're lucky to get a bus in Whangarei that's on time and it's on the hour. We have proposed over many years to connect Hokianga to the Bay of Islands. Let's look at the road networks that's required. For myself, coming from primary industries, connecting our kaimahi from Hokianga or Whangaroa into Kirikiri for the horticulture jobs. Why can't we do that? That requires investment, and it also alleviates some of the demands on whānau to drive long distances. But we also need good roads, and we've heard a lot from local government that they don't have enough of a ratepayer base to pay for all the roads in the Far North District, for instance. A
lot of these decisions will have, it's easy to say, long-term impacts on the health of the whenua. And those impacts will stretch out for decades and decades and decades. I'm wondering if you think that, because of that, rangatahi should have a larger say in what decisions are made. So, for instance, lowering the age of voting down to 16. Is that something that you're in support of?
Well, the Green Party do support the lowering of the voting age to 16. Tai tamariki voice is important, whether it's whenua Māori, on our marae committee, and in community voice. Local government, we have our youth advisory committees, and we need to take it seriously. Our young people are smart, they are wise, and they're critical, and they're watching us as adults. In running my youth MP process, I called a hui, and I brought those shortlisted together in Whangarei, Te Rangaparaoa Marae, and I ran panels with them. Tino Maia, they're koi, they know exactly what's going on and what's top of mind for them. So I enjoy the company of young people, and as decision makers and those in places of power, we should open up the doors to our young people to be a part of decision making.
Let's look at it from the other way around. Do you think there should be an age limit on MPs? Let's say 65, 75. What do you make of that?
It's an interesting proposition. I mean, there's wisdom with age. There's also wisdom in bringing tai tamariki through too, and I pay tribute to both the elders that we have in Whare Pāremata as well as the youth, like Hana Rāwhiti. And I don't buy into the ageist sort of thing, whether it's young or old. Rather, it's capability, but also the support of diverse voices to come into Whare Pāremata. Everybody requires representation. We should be upholding the voices of all members of our community.
You mentioned Hana Rāwhiti Maipi Clark, and I think it is fair to say that Te Pāti Māori have been able to capture the attention of many young Māori, rangatahi. Do you believe the Green Party's sort of policies and advocacy, do you think that they're relevant to rangatahi?
I think that we represent a particular part of our community. We have green solutions that we want to share across the board, whether it's tai tamariki, whether it's parents and even our elders, because it's all about people and planet. We can only operate as much as Papa Tuanuku will allow, and when we hama Papa Tuanuku, we'll soon hear. And so I think that everyone's got that taiao lens, and we're a part of providing solutions that can benefit all New Zealanders, because what's good for Māori is good for all New Zealand.
Yes, and I think also it's fair to say that rangatahi Māori, which we've seen over the past couple of years in particular, want systemic change, but they want it now. And so when we talk about things like infrastructure, the Resource Management Act, Public Works Act, from your perspective, do you think rangatahi would even care about something like that?
They have cared, and we saw that in the fast track, the way that youth mobilised in protest and in submissions. Our young people are watching very carefully, and we have mobilised an army of submission writers. Let's not be fooled. The entire community is watching. And, that's full tribute to the way that generations and communities are working together. And the young people are going to inherit the decisions of today. So that's why I think about our pōpō all the time, because what decisions are made today will impact on my daughters and my mokopuna to come.
What kind of Aotearoa do you want your daughters to grow up in?
A green Aotearoa that upholds te tiriti, honours he whakaputanga, and where there is enough for all to go around. Where poverty no longer exists and all Māori have access to a kāinga, a whare haumaru. That's not something that we have right now. And why can't... That's our right. That's our right. It's a human right, and it's a right for us as tangata whenua. I hate to see our uri homeless in their own kāinga.
We touched on at the beginning of the interview around some of the criticism that your colleague Tamantha Paul has been under, particularly last week. What's your experience dealing with the police?
I've had a mixed experience with the police over the years. I have interacted with them as a young person, but also as an adult, and I have a daily relationship with them when we have kaupapa in the kāinga, but also I know who to lean on when I need help. I'm very mindful of some of the serious issues within our communities that require the expertise of police, but we have to manage the powers that they have carefully, because we know that there are biases that exist, and the police have acknowledged that. And for us as rural Māori and those of Taitokiro, some of our people have had really bad experiences. But for myself, it's been reasonable. I mean, the police know how to contact me, and I know how to contact them, because at the end of the day, we're whanaunga in the north, and that's a different experience to many urban whānau.
I'd like to touch on all of the stuff going on with whānau ora as well. As you'll know, the contract holders, the commissioning agencies, the North Island and South Island and Pacifica Futures commissioning agencies, it looks like, nothing's been decided yet, but it looks like they're going to lose their contracts and they'll be dispersed to 5 other organisations. Given the track record that they've had of success, what do you make of TPK making that change and deciding to open it up to an open tender?
I became aware that the RFP was going out last year. I've been trying to understand the decision-making of TPK, but also their communication back out to us in terms of rationale. I see that we have iwi groupings, new groups coming into the space, and I'm being patient to enable the process to take place, the contracting, to understand what the new models will be. And ultimately, providers will continue to deliver awesome services to our communities. This is a commissioning function, but the delivery of services, I believe, will still be maintained amongst that awesome group of providers that we have across the motu. But tāria te wā ka kite, and that's what I'm waiting to see. What is the outcome?
John Tamahere is the Chief Executive of the North Island Whānau Ora Commissioning Agency. He's also in charge of Waipareira, who are under scrutiny at the moment. And at the same time, he's also the President of Te Pāti Māori. From their perspective, they think that it's a political hit job. What do you think of that?
I'm not clear in terms of the decision-making of TPK in any of the RFP processes, and I think that will come out in the wash in terms of their decisions and how they ended up, making the decision to change to a tribal-based entity in the South Island, again in the mid-central area, and then for the north is interesting. I'm waiting to see what the model looks like and how providers are brought back into the room. In terms of the decision-making of the Crown, that's something delegated to Te Puni Kōkiri and was operational. And I understand that there are court proceedings underway too, so let's see what comes out in the wash.
What would you say the greatest success of whānau ora is? What makes it so successful?
I think it is the way with which we take a whānau-centred approach, trying to reduce the numbers of cars coming into the driveway for a family. But also I've experienced positive results with the navigators in particular. I have appreciated the way that navigators come in. They are skilled, they know the landscape of providers that are available, and then they provide the relevant responses depending on what the whānau need and what their goals are for the future. So in the navigation space, I appreciate them very much.
Ka pai. I te Tuwhenuaroa Hūhana, thank you very much for coming in and joining us this episode. It's been just when we're talking about things like the RMA and the Public Works Act, I think it's quite difficult to get your head around, and so I appreciate your knowledge on this. Ka pai. Thank you.
Kia ora.
I te whakarongo koutou ki a Hūhana Lyndon, me ma pare mata mo te ropu kākāriki. Ko a whakairia hia te ki te kōrero mo tēnei wā, tēnei te mihi ki te Māngai Pāho, me te irirangi o te motu, nā rāwa tēnei hōtaka I tautoko. We'll be back with more mata in a fortnight. Noho ora mai.
Ko te reo, te take.